Certainly proud of the way our guys just stuck with it after starting on the offensive side of the ball, starting a little bit sluggishly, and just maintaining composure and just staying into the defense. Did a phenomenal job after the first drive, just shutting down the opponent and giving us an opportunity to get back in and close out the first half with a scoring drive, and that certainly built some momentum. Came out with great defense, great special teams, that just, we started clicking and started doing started playing more Miami Hurricane football. So, questions, please.
We'll start with Tim Reynolds from AP.
Mario, in the on-field interview after the game, Malachi said that you guys talked all week about getting back to the standard. The last, I think it was 6 touchdowns in the last 7 possessions, and the other one deep, and you got stopped on the 4th. Does that personify what the standard is?
In a way, it
the bounce
does.
Back and not winning last week beat you twice.
Yes, sir. I mean, the standard is nothing but your absolute best in absolutely everything that we do. And it's when that game, we don't get the result we want early. We drive down there, we miss a field goal. We didn't convert on a 4th down pass that we are pretty good at doing. You gotta trust each other and have the resilience and the trust in not only as players but as a staff, that if we just stay on course and just stay on schedule and follow the game plan, at some point in time it's gonna break. Because things where that you saw enough on the iPad to say, we missed this cut, hey, we could have called this better, hey, we dropped this ball. But no one panicked, and I thought just the defense, the way they took over the game, as physical as they were, the field position given to us by special teams in the return game, certainly all those things, albeit the 4th and 1, which we didn't make, we had an opportunity to score on the 7th straight drive. So certainly a massive turnaround from the previous quarters of our previous game and the first quarter and a half of football tonight.
Coach, Jordan McPherson from the Herald.
Mario, 2 questions on the defense. First, just the group overall, what did you see after the first drive that led to the response, and how did you like what they were going to do after?
Well, we may have reduced pre-snap penalties by a little bit, but nowhere near to the standard. We spoke about the standard earlier. But what we saw is communication, and when we communicate and line up the right way and play with confidence, you see what you saw after the second drive. We were still a little bit out of sorts on the first drive, and we had a couple of miscommunications. After that, alignment, assignment, and then just playing really fast and physical became a reality. So let's keep the whole thing.
And then Noah Keenesburg, how close was he, and what did you like about Marquise Armando and the group that filled in for him on that?
We felt the team was really close. We felt all week he was going to be there, and then sometimes you could present yourself with an opportunity to play a player, and then you have to calculate, the medical staff has to calculate what type of risk is involved. Can we set it back? Is this a guy that can be a full-speed player with another couple of days? So the assessment was made as well as the decision, and it was the right thing for both the team and for the team.
Coach, what happened with the team?
You mentioned, the offense starting off a little sluggishly, especially in the running game. I think maybe 60-ish yards in the first half, maybe a little less. I don't remember exactly, but obviously came alive in the second half. Just what changed? Is it the blocking with the running backs? What changed with the running game in the second half?
Well, I do think this, and it's probably an unpopular take, is that all these teams have good players. If you watch conference football across the entire country, regardless of records, you're going to see very tight games. Okay. And at some point in time, the play calls, along with the execution of those play calls, if you feel confident in them and you feel there are opportunities there, you stick with them, and eventually it'll give way. And that's what happened in the run game. A little bit more on finishing, a little bit more on half position, a little bit more on pad level, and then seeing it a little bit better. Sometimes a little bit more patient, and sometimes just hitting it. Sometimes getting an extra hat over there. Sometimes someone making it to the safety. Sometimes making the safety miss. There's a lot of different schemes that we run. Some between the tackles, some stuff outside or designed to go outside. But the run game, in my opinion, as the game wears on, you should get better. If you trust your offensive line, your bigs, and your running backs, you should get better. I think Mark Fletcher, again, showed why he's such a great player and so important to this football team. You give him the carries necessary to get him going, and I think the entire tone and the perspective of the game changes.
Coach, what Brian London?
Coach, can you just talk about Coach Heatherman and the rest of the defensive staff and the defensive players' ability to make adjustments? Obviously they gave up that touchdown in the first drive, and then after that was pretty lights out. Just amazing ability to make adjustments on the fly there.
Yeah, he's very regimented, he's a perfectionist, and he was obviously, the standard is a standard. The first drive wasn't good enough, and I think every defensive player will tell you the same. I think every player in that locker room they'll echo the same message, as Coach Heather would. I think from a seeing the game standpoint and calling it, certainly he's made us a ton better. Tonight, it was critical for us to get those stops because we weren't generating much on the other side of the ball. And those stops eventually led to great field position because of special teams, complementary play, and then of course turnovers forced. So a ton of credit to everybody on that team. The scout team guys have prepared, the defense as well, and certainly really appreciate the work that Coach does.
Coach, we got a couple more. We'll go to Chris Stock in the back and we'll go back to Jordan in the front.
We've talked a lot about Malachi, Tony, and his performance all season. Just again tonight, what you saw from him, and then his plays in the return game. Just when he has the ball in his hands, he continues to do it.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to getting him involved in the return game, and sometimes you've got to be careful, in choosing certain schemes and certain calls due to some of the things that you see on the other side and some of the things that you have to automate to on the other side as well. But the opportunity was there tonight. We trust him a lot, and we saw what you saw. An explosive guy that is always ready to make a play for his teammates, a guy that is fearless, a guy that not only wants the ball, wants to throw his body around in there and block, just a complete team player, and certainly a game changer.
Coach, we'll wrap up with Jordan.
Two of the other individual guys, like Tony Johnson, didn't get any touches in the game either. You see it, take advantage of his opportunities today, and then Xavier Luke's on defense, first interception. And just thoughts on how those two new guys.
Xavier West got themselves some interceptions tonight. I thought both those guys played really well. Thought our corners in general, we were able to rotate a few guys in there, and they're all unselfish. They go in there and they do their job, and they complement each other really well. Tony got his shot tonight. We did some 4 wide, some 10 personnel stuff. Create a little bit of air, in there. That helped the run game as well. And certainly a guy that we think very highly of. And I think what you saw tonight, a lot of guys have been working hard to earn playing time. I think Tony has worked really hard to earn playing time. I think Josh Moore has worked hard and earned playing time. Joe Trader has worked hard and earned playing time. Chris Wheatley got some touches. Pringle got some touches. We're looking forward to getting Dale Upshaw in there as well. Our roster is, when you have an opportunity like that, those last 16 to 18 plays are critical because it's not about scoring. We're trying to score. It's about roster development as you head further and further into the season. End of October, right? Beginning of November. So really good to see that from our guys.